He lives by a rule most people never discover, a rule that keeps him sharp, calm, and untouchable while everyone else collapses under pressure. You might think he's built differently, stronger, colder, or simply less affected by life. But the truth is far more strategic. A Sigma male doesn't avoid burnout because he has more energy. He avoids burnout because he refuses to let the world drain him in the first place. The way he moves, the way he works, the way he disconnects, it's all governed by one quiet principle that protects his mind like armor. And once you hear it, you'll start noticing it everywhere. Most people burn out because they live in reaction mode, constantly responding, pleasing, proving, and explaining. Sigma males don't play that game. They follow a mental rule that creates distance, clarity, and internal sovereignty. It's what allows them to stay focused when others spiral, and rebuild themselves long before they shatter. And if you've ever wondered why some people stay centered no matter what is happening around them, this rule is the missing piece. Before we go deeper, answer this in the comments. Do you burn out because of people or because of expectations? Your answer will tell you whether you're living as yourself or living for the world. And if you're new here, subscribe to UltraWise so you don't miss the next lesson that could shift the way you think forever. He protects his energy by withdrawing before exhaustion, not after it. He learned long ago that burnout doesn't arrive with warning signs. It creeps in silently, disguised as responsibility, urgency, or loyalty. That's why a Sigma male pulls back before the breaking point, not after. He senses the shift long before others notice anything wrong. The slight heaviness in his thoughts, the subtle resistance in his focus, the quiet fatigue behind his dedication. Most people keep pushing when they feel this, but he does the opposite. He steps away, not because he's weak, not because he's quitting, but because he knows that the moment his energy begins to fray, everything he builds becomes vulnerable. Distance becomes his shield, withdrawal becomes his strategy, and silence becomes the place where he resets his power. He understands a truth many never learn. Recovery is not what you do when you collapse, it's what you do to prevent collapse. So he listens to the early signals others drown with noise. When the world pushes for more, he refuses to negotiate with his own limits. He detaches, restructures, and recharges before the damage begins. People misread this as disappearing, as emotional coldness, as detachment without reason. They don't see the internal logic behind it. They don't understand that he's preserving the very force they depend on, the clarity that makes him different, the discipline that makes him reliable, the mindset that makes him unbreakable. They see absence. He sees protection. And during that withdrawal, something powerful happens. His mind sharpens. The weight that was clouding his judgment dissolves. The people who drained him become obvious. The habits that slowed him become visible. The obligations that weren't his become clear. This is where he reclaims control. This is where he chooses what deserves his energy and what no longer earns it. By the time he returns, he's not tired, irritated, or depleted. He's restored, focused, and ready. The Sigma male doesn't survive burnout by fighting harder. He avoids it entirely by respecting his internal thresholds. And that is why he moves through life with endurance few can match. He guards his energy like a resource, not a sacrifice. And because of that, he finishes races others abandon halfway. He refuses to carry emotional weight that doesn't belong to him. A Sigma male learned the hard way that most people don't want solutions. They want someone to absorb the emotional burden they create. For years, he played that role without realizing it. The quiet listener who took on the stress others avoided, the steady presence who made chaos feel manageable, the silent anchor people leaned on without ever asking if he had the strength left to hold them. But eventually, something in him shifted. He saw the imbalance. He noticed how often he left conversations feeling heavier than when he entered. He recognized how many people came to him not to connect, but to unload. And that realization became the turning point, where he stopped carrying weight that wasn't his to hold. When someone brings him drama, he doesn't pick it up. When someone tries to guilt-trip him into responsibility for their emotions, he steps back. When someone expects him to fix what they continuously break, he lets the consequences remain where they belong. This isn't selfishness, it's emotional intelligence sharpened through experience. He understands that absorbing the weight of others doesn't heal them, it only weakens him. And a weakened sigma is a sigma operating far below his potential. So he learns to detach without apology. He listens without absorbing. He understands without inheriting. He cares without sacrificing himself. This shift is subtle on the surface, but internally, it's seismic. He stops carrying guilt for walking away from manipulative dynamics. He stops feeling responsible for solving problems he didn't create. He stops allowing others to weaponize his empathy. He becomes intentional about what enters his emotional space, filtering every interaction through one question. Does this belong to me? If the answer is no, he lets it pass through him like smoke, seen, acknowledged, but never inhaled. And what follows is freedom. His mind becomes lighter, his focus sharper, his emotional stability unshakable. People who relied on him as a dumping ground feel the shift immediately. They sense they can no longer place their storms on his shoulders. But the ones who value him, truly value him, begin to respect him more because they now see him as a man who knows his limits and protects them fiercely. By refusing to carry what isn't his, the Sigma male preserves the strength that makes him who he is. A man driven not by emotional chaos, but by clarity, intention, and self-mastery. He works in cycles of intensity and silence, preventing mental overload. A Sigma male doesn't operate the way the world expects him to. People look at him and assume he's inconsistent, bursts of productivity followed by sudden withdrawal, but what they fail to understand is that this rhythm isn't chaos. It's strategy. He works like a man who understands the architecture of his own mind. When he is in an intense phase, he becomes fully immersed, focused, driven, unstoppable. He builds, creates, solves, and executes with a level of precision that shocks people who underestimate him. But just as quickly as he enters this mode, he steps out of it. Not because he is tired, unmotivated, or distracted, but because he refuses to let intensity turn into burnout. His silence is not a collapse. It is a calculated reset. During these quiet phases, he does something most people never do. He lets his mind breathe. He withdraws from noise, opinions, pressure, and the expectations of others. He steps back into solitude, where he can hear his own thoughts with absolute clarity. This is where he recalibrates, where he reflects on the path he is walking, where he refuels his mental reserves before returning to the world at full power. He doesn't announce these silent periods, nor does he apologize for them. He simply disappears, gathers himself, and reemerges sharper than before. This cycle confuses people who live in constant motion. They don't understand how someone can accomplish so much without grinding every second of the day. But the Sigma isn't interested in being busy. He is interested in being effective. His productivity doesn't come from pushing himself non-stop. It comes from knowing exactly when to surge forward and when to pull back. He understands that silence is not the absence of work. It is the preparation for his best work. And because he respects this rhythm, he never hits the point where his mind burns out, shuts down, or turns against him. His cycle becomes his power. Intense phases allow him to achieve what others need weeks to finish. Silent phases allow him to protect his energy, reconnect with his internal compass, and maintain long-term resilience. Over time, these rhythms form a system that keeps him mentally stable, emotionally balanced, and perpetually evolving. He doesn't fear burnout because he never lets himself reach that edge. Instead, he masters the art of retreat and return, the silent science that keeps a Sigma male unstoppable. He prioritizes solitude as maintenance, not escape. A Sigma male doesn't disappear because life overwhelms him. He disappears because solitude is where he sharpens the edges life tries to dull. For most people, being alone is a reaction to stress, conflict, or exhaustion. But for him, solitude is maintenance, a necessary ritual woven into the architecture of his mind. When he steps away from the world, it's not avoidance, it's alignment. He retreats the way a warrior retreats to clean his weapons, not because he is defeated, but because he knows he has battles ahead and preparation is a form of strength. In his quiet, isolated environments, he reconnects with the clarity that gets buried under noise and expectation. He listens to himself without interruption, without influence, without the pressure to respond. And in that stillness, he returns to who he really is. This kind of solitude feels foreign to people who depend on constant interaction to feel alive or validated. They mistake his detachment for detachment, numbness, or emotional distance. They assume he's pulling away from life, when, in truth, he's reinforcing his foundation. Solitude is where he repairs the cracks created by overstimulation and emotional demands. It's where he sorts his priorities, recalibrates his goals, and cleans out the mental clutter that accumulates when he's surrounded by others. His thoughts become sharper. His instincts become louder, and his direction becomes unmistakably clear. He treats his alone time like an essential resource, not a luxury, because he knows that without it, he becomes a diluted version of himself. Inside these quiet phases, the Sigma male doesn't feel lonely. He feels restored. He can breathe without performing, think without defending, and exist without adjusting himself for anyone else's comfort. The world outside might be pulling him in 100 directions, but solitude centers him like a gravitational force. It recharges his emotional battery, strengthens his boundaries, and gives him the mental elasticity to face challenges with controlled precision rather than burnout-driven panic. By the time he steps back into the world, he isn't drained. He is recalibrated, refocused, and ready. What others interpret as escape is really evolution. His solitude isn't running away. It is returning to the source of his strength. People who overlook this pattern never understand how he stays so stable, disciplined, and unfazed over time. But the truth is simple. Solitude is his maintenance, the quiet ritual that keeps him powerful, grounded, and impossible to break. He never forces productivity. He aligns action with mental clarity. A Sigma male understands something most people never learn. Forced productivity is counterfeit progress. He knows that grinding without clarity leads to mistakes, burnout, and wasted effort, so he refuses to push himself just to appear busy. When the world pressures him to move faster, produce more, or keep up with everyone else's rhythm, he steps back instead of speeding up. To him, action without intention is noise, and he was never built for noise. His work begins in silence, in the moments where his mind aligns, his intuition settles, and the direction of his next step becomes unmistakably clear. Only then does he move, and when he does, it's with precision that makes his results look effortless. This approach confuses people who believe productivity is a matter of constant motion. They mistake his pauses for laziness, his stillness for lack of drive. What they don't see is the internal engine running behind the scenes, the analysis, the observation, the pattern recognition. While others rush into tasks half-prepared, he is constructing a mental blueprint. He studies outcomes before lifting a finger. He examines the landscape before taking a single step. And because he thinks deeply before acting, he rarely has to redo, correct, or repair anything. His clarity saves him time, energy, and emotional resources that others waste through impulsive effort. When his clarity arrives, it arrives like a strike of lightning, and his productivity becomes unstoppable. In these moments, he can achieve in hours what others struggle to finish in days. His execution is clean, his decisions are sharp, and his momentum becomes self-sustaining because it is fueled by purpose, not pressure. He rides the wave of his mental alignment instead of fighting against it. This is why his work looks intense and powerful when he's in motion. He has been gathering insight, energy, and direction during the moments of stillness that others misinterpret. His burst-driven style is not chaotic, it is strategic. By refusing to force productivity, he preserves the most valuable asset he has, his internal balance. He avoids the emotional burnout that consumes people who work without alignment. He protects his creativity from being drained by routine, and he ensures that every action he takes moves him forward rather than sideways. His productivity isn't constant, but it is consistently effective, because he operates only when mind, instinct, and purpose lock into place. This is why he achieves quietly, grows steadily, and evolves without needing applause. His clarity, not pressure, is what fuels his success. He avoids environments that drain rather than sharpen him. A Sigma male knows that the spaces he inhabits shape the man he becomes, so he becomes unusually selective about the environments he allows himself to remain in. He doesn't stay where his energy is siphoned, where his mind is dulled, or where his ambition is misunderstood as a threat. When a room feels heavy, chaotic, or stagnant, he feels it instantly. And unlike most people who try to adapt or tolerate, he quietly prepares his exit. To him, staying in a draining environment is a betrayal of his potential. Growth needs oxygen, and he refuses to suffocate just to belong somewhere he was never meant to fit. His withdrawal isn't dramatic, it's deliberate. A clean, silent separation from anything that slowly erodes his strength. He has no interest in circles built on competition, gossip, emotional volatility, or superficial validation. These spaces exhaust him because they offer stimulation without nourishment. Instead of sharpening his mind, they scatter it. Instead of giving him direction, they drown him in noise. So the moment he senses that an environment forces him into a version of himself that feels smaller, quieter, or less authentic, he steps back. He understands that mental and emotional burnout doesn't come only from overworking, it comes from staying in places where you can't breathe. And a Sigma male always protects his oxygen. But leaving isn't just about escaping negativity. It's about choosing environments that elevate him. Places where ideas grow instead of die. Spaces where silence is respected, not questioned. Circles where purpose matters more than performance. He seeks environments that challenge him, push him, sharpen him, and invite him to think beyond the obvious. And when he finds them, he thrives. His creativity spikes. His discipline strengthens. His intuition becomes louder. He transforms because he's no longer fighting against the weight of the wrong energy. The world often misreads this as isolation, as if he avoids people entirely. But that's not the truth. He avoids the wrong kind of people, the ones who drain without giving, speak without thinking, demand without contributing, and judge without understanding. He avoids places that shrink him instead of shaping him. And because of this selectiveness, his burnout rate is almost non-existent. The Sigma male survives, not by enduring harmful environments, but by refusing to stay in them. His strength isn't just in what he does, it's in what he walks away from. He rebuilds himself through detachment, reflection, and strategic rest. A Sigma male doesn't collapse when life pushes him to the edge. He retreats, not to hide, not to escape, but to rebuild with precision. His detachment is not emotional shutdown, it's a conscious recalibration. When his energy feels scattered, when the world becomes too loud, or when responsibilities begin pulling him in too many directions, he steps back and enters a state of controlled distance. In this space, he is unreachable to the chaos, but deeply connected to himself. His silence becomes the operating room where he examines his wounds, rewires his mindset, and extracts the noise that clouded his clarity. The world misinterprets this as coldness, but it's discipline, the strategic withdrawal of a man who refuses to burn out simply because others demand more of him than he's willing to give. Reflection is the engine that powers his reconstruction. A Sigma doesn't merely think about what happened, he dissects it. He analyzes patterns, motivations, mistakes, and emotional triggers with a depth most people avoid because the truth is often uncomfortable. He is not afraid of his internal shadows because he knows they contain instructions for his next evolution. He looks at where he overextended, where he ignored red flags, where he allowed noise to infiltrate his peace. Instead of blaming others or spiraling into guilt, he uses every insight as fuel. This reflective phase sharpens his intuition, strengthens his boundaries, and distills his priorities. He emerges from it with a clarity that feels almost dangerous, the kind that makes him immune to old traps and blind spots that once drained him. Strategic rest is the final piece of his rebuilding process, and it's far from passive. For the Sigma, rest is a deliberate reset, a weapon, a recalibration of the mind rather than an escape from pressure. He doesn't rest to avoid responsibility. He rests so he can return to it with precision. Quiet mornings, isolated nights, long walks, silent rooms, these are not signs of disengagement, but of preparation. His rest sharpens his mind, loosens the emotional tension he's been carrying, and restores the internal fire that makes him effective. Most people rest only after they've hit the wall. A Sigma rests to ensure he never hits it in the first place. When he returns, people notice the shift. His energy is cleaner, his decisions firmer, his direction stronger. The man who detached is not the same man who reappears. He rebuilds not by forcing himself forward, but by stepping back strategically, and that's why he becomes harder to break every time life tests him. When a Sigma male lives by these mental rules, burnout stops being a threat and becomes something he outgrows entirely. He moves through life with a calm intensity, a clarity that others can't imitate, and a pace that looks effortless because every step is intentional. While the world drains itself trying to keep up, he protects his mind, rebuilds his strength, and returns sharper every single time. That's the quiet advantage most people overlook. The power of a man who knows how to step back before he breaks, and how to rise before anyone realizes he was ever gone. Now I want to hear from you. When you pull away, do you detach to escape or to rebuild? Your answer will say everything about where you are in your own evolution. And if you want more deep psychology, more Sigma breakdowns, and more insights that sharpen your mindset, subscribe to UltraWise so you never miss the next lesson.